Welcome to this presentation of MC Vote's Fall 2020 election information. If you'd like to receive more information after this presentation, please visit montgomerycollege.edu/mcvotes or contact us at mcvotes@montgomerycollege.edu. Fall 2020 election basics. An election for President of the United States will take place this fall. U.S. citizens who are 18 years old on or before November 3rd, 2020 may vote. In Maryland, you will also be able to vote on your representative to the U.S. Congress, Board of Education candidates, and questions about the state budget, legalizing sports gambling, and more. You must register by your state's deadline to vote. In Maryland, that deadline is October 13th. If you are a first-time voter, you may also register in person on November 3rd, though registering in advance is strongly encouraged. Maryland election dates include the deadline to request an absentee ballot and register to vote, which is again October 13th. Early voting, which will take place from October 26th through November 2nd, and Election Day, November 3rd. For the District of Columbia, Virginia, and other regions, please visit vote411.org. Vote 411 is a website managed by the League of Women Voters. It's nonpartisan and provides all of the election information you can need. We highly recommend that you get started at vote411.org to learn how to register to vote, check that your registration is current, see what's on your ballot, and even request to vote by mail. The 5 R's of being ready to vote this fall are register, request, research, receive, and return. First, you must be a registered voter. That means that you must be eligible to vote in U.S. elections and that your voter registration needs to be current and correct. So who is eligible to vote in U.S. elections? A brief video from VOA can be accessed on their website or through YouTube if you'd like to see more information about who can vote in U.S. elections. But as the video notes, you must be a U.S. citizen who is 18 years old on or before Election Day. And there may be other exclusions based on your history or background. In Maryland, if you are a returned citizen who has completed your sentence, even if you are currently on parole, you are eligible to vote. So you should note that as you are looking to see whether you are eligible to vote. There are specific requirements per state. Step 2 will be to request your ballot. Voting by mail is free, safe, and easy in the state of Maryland and is our recommended way of voting this fall in the time of COVID-19. Voting in person will also be an option. To request your absentee ballot, we recommend that you use this short link, bit.ly/VBM_MC_votes. This will take you directly to the state's application for a mail-in ballot. In order to request a mail-in ballot online, you will have to have a Maryland driver's license, state ID, or some other proof of Maryland residency. If you do not have that proof, you will also be receiving an absentee ballot request by paper in your mailbox. The state of Maryland is mailing those to every already registered voter. So you can look for that application in your mail, or you can contact Student Life and we will print you an absentee ballot request so that you can fill it out as soon as possible. Once you receive your absentee ballot, you'll be able to fill it out and return it in a number of different ways that we'll talk about later in this presentation. But what if you want to vote in person? There will still be in-person voting options this fall, including early voting during October 26th through November 2nd, voting at voting centers on Election Day, November 3rd, or even voting in person at the Board of Elections. But voting by mail helps you avoid lines that we anticipate will be very lengthy on Election Day. Of course, protect others like our election workers, healthcare workers, and vulnerable members of our community, as well as yourself. Either way, you need to make a plan to vote. Your first question is, who will you vote for? Your next question, how will you vote? By mail, in person, and when will you vote? If you're voting by mail, you can return your ballot as soon as possible, or maybe you'll vote during early voting in person or on election day. So this requires you to do a little bit of research. First, we want you to find out what elections will be on your ballot and which candidates best match your positions and goals. Again, request your absentee ballot so that you can find out what kind of information is going to be on your ballot. And you can visit vote411.org/ballot so that you can get a sample ballot that looks very similar to what you will receive by mail or see when you go to early voting or vote on election day. In the meantime, we encourage you to use a great free nonpartisan resource called iSideWith. iSideWith.com/political-quiz is a great place to go where you can take a quiz that will ask you different questions about your political positions, such as increasing gun control, increasing funding for education or healthcare, and positions on foreign policy, economic policy, and much more. Taking a brief 5 to 10 minute quiz, you can answer several questions, rank how important they are to you, and then you'll get a sample returned to you that shows you what percentage of your positions match the positions of candidates that will be on your ballot. This information is gathered from a number of different sources, including the candidates' own statements on their website, at debates, and in the media, as well as their voting records, as well as who donates to them. It's a great resource that aggregates information about candidates and gives you a little bit more information about who you might side with when it comes to the upcoming election. So after you have received your ballot in the mail, you can fill it out. But first, you might want to track where your ballot is. Before you receive it, you can go to Voter Services through the Board of Elections in the state of Maryland, and you can do a search for your ballot. This is also a place where you can check that your voter registration is current and accurate, even if you're voting in person. So we highly encourage you to check out Voter Services through the Board of Elections so that you can check on your information and track where your ballot might be after you have requested it. Once it's received by you, you'll fill it out according to the instructions on the form. It's very important that you read those and follow them carefully. You'll need to use, for instance, a black ink pen, and you'll have to sign your envelope in order for it to be deemed eligible for being counted. Once it's filled out and signed, you can put it in your mailbox. There's no postage necessary in Maryland. You will see that the postage has been prepaid on the provided envelope. Or if you prefer, you can drop it off at a drop box or a voting center. The locations of those will be listed at 777vote.org for Montgomery County residents, or again, if you reside outside of Montgomery County, you can start with the League of Women Voters site, vote411.org, to get information for anywhere in the United States or places that you can vote. Mail-in early voting and election day dates have recently changed, so we do encourage you to pay attention to only current information on official websites. Early voting is going to take place from October 26th through November 2nd, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. During early voting, you can vote at any early voting site in your county. Montgomery County will have several early voting sites open in places such as Germantown, Rockville, Silver Spring, Wheaton, and more, and you can vote at any of those, not just the one that happens to be closest to your home. We do encourage you to check ahead of time if there are lines at early voting and to be prepared to be socially distant and protect yourself and others by wearing a mask. On election day, if you choose, you can vote on November 3rd. You will need to check what the closest polling place to you is and what has been assigned to you, as we are not sure what polling places will be open due to shortages of election judges, as well as sites where we can adequately socially distance. Either way, if you do vote in person on election day, we encourage you to be prepared to potentially wait in line and, of course, protect yourself and others by wearing a mask. You can find early voting and voting centers by starting at vote411.org. What else can you do besides vote? We highly encourage you to consider being an election worker. Bilingual election workers are especially needed, but anyone who is a U.S. citizen that's registered to vote can help protect democracy and serve our community. To get started, you can visit 777vote.org or text SERVE to 77788. You can even get paid as an election worker up to $310 per day or earn volunteer hours. Montgomery College is encouraging all of our employees and alumni to consider serving in this vital role. You can even use enrichment leave if you are an employee at Montgomery College in order to serve on election day. If you're not eligible to vote, you might consider sharing your story and motivating others to vote with the Love Vote Project. This is a great platform where you can share a little bit of information about yourself and encourage other people to vote. If you're under the age of 18, you're not a US citizen, or you've been disenfranchised from the vote in some other way, this is a great way for you to reach out to your network of professors, other students, and neighbors, and encourage them to pledge to vote on your behalf. We encourage you to check out some of the wonderful stories being shared through the Love Vote by clicking on the Love Vote below. You might also be interested in volunteering for a cause or a candidate. You can join MC in Days of Action this fall by helping write postcards and encouraging your neighbors to vote, or you might reach out directly to a candidate or volunteer for a particular cause. Now, a little bit about that question, what can denizens do? What is a denizen exactly? A denizen, unlike a citizen, is someone who lives in a place and is a member of the community. You don't necessarily have specific papers or a citizenship for that place, but you might still be a vital member of the community. Fun fact, Denizens is also the name of a local brewery co-founded by MC alumni Julie Verratti. We encourage all Montgomery County denizens to consider being an MC Votes student ambassador. Through this program this fall, you can learn new skills in virtual workshops that will take place every Monday from 3 to 5 p.m. or on your own time. You'll also be able to join us for Days of Action and Service. Students who commit to attending a certain number of workshops, Days of Action, and Days of Service might be eligible to earn a Maryland Community College Leadership Certificate and Service Award, which are fantastic ways to help build your resume, demonstrate that you have certain skills, and successfully apply to transfer or for scholarships. To get started, we encourage you to fill out the interest form, and we'll let you know when workshops are taking place and connect you with other students who are committed to becoming MC Votes student ambassadors. Don't miss out on MC Votes events and information this fall. Text @MCVotes to 81010, and we'll add you to our Remind group so that you get important reminders about deadlines like the October 13th deadline to register to vote, or an encouragement to continue to volunteer and get the word out to fellow neighbors, students, and friends. You can also find MC Votes Days of Service in action on GivePulse, our college's volunteer platform, where you can register this fall for volunteer opportunities that are virtual and remote. You can follow us on social media, Instagram @mc.votes or facebook.com/montgomerycollege.votes as well. You might have heard the quote, "If voting made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it." There's versions of this quote attributed to people like American writer Mark Twain or activist Emma Goldman. But we want to remind you of the recently passed great Congressman John Lewis, who absolutely was not allowed to vote for part of his life. During the 1960s, you can see in this quote, he says that he was arrested 40 times. Since his time in Congress, he's been arrested another 5 times. He said he'll probably get arrested again. Why, would you ask? He was arrested because he was fighting to have the right to vote. He says, "You must be prepared to say, you may beat me, you arrest me, you may throw me in jail." He notes that he almost died on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, marching for the right to vote. And he gave blood while others gave their lives. The fact of the matter is that voting makes a huge difference, and this is why so many people have had to fight for the right to vote. We encourage you to exercise your right to vote this fall and to know that your vote does make a difference. Again, get started at vote411.org or reach out to the Office of Student Life to get started. Thank you. We encourage you to get involved in lots of our programs this fall, and of course, exercise your right to vote on or before Election Day, November 3rd.